Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Midlands online worship service. I'm Connie Ofori-Dankwa, Worship Associate for this morning's service. If you haven't already, please type into the chat box who you are and who you've brought with you today. Unitarian Universalism is a welcoming and inclusive religion. It encourages us to keep open hearts and minds because our own experience, conscience, and reason are the final authorities in religion. It affirms the inherent worth and dignity of every person and that we are all connected to each other and the earth. If you are visiting us today, a special welcome to you. We appreciate you spending some of your Sunday morning with us. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat box, by phone, or through our Facebook page. If you've been attending for some time and have come to feel that this is your spiritual home and you are considering becoming a member of the fellowship, please contact our minister, Eric Severson, or a member of the welcome team, or let us know of your interest in the chat box. If you have a chalice or candle at home and would like to join in our chalice lighting, now would be the time to get ready. We will be including joys and sorrows in this morning's service as we normally do. You will want to find the participant icon to raise your hand for that. And we will now move on to announcements. You will see them on your screen. A reminder from the Michigan UU Social Justice Network. If you still intend to vote by mail for the primary on this coming Tuesday, you instead need to hand carry your ballot to your local clerk's office. Then, come November's election, mail your absentee ballot very early to make sure it gets counted. More information about this is in this week's Candle Flame newsletter. Next week's service will be Themes of Harvest, led by Christina Van Pucker. For pagans, the first Harvest Sabbath is on August 1st. Members of the UUFOM Cups Group reflect on this time of year and themes of harvest. Watch your email for more announcements in our Candle Flame newsletter on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Email office@uufom.org to subscribe, or if you have an item to submit. So now, today is Birthday Recognition Sunday. If you have had or will have a birthday in August, or if we missed yours in July, please raise your hand in the participant area of your screen and or type your birth date in the chat box. Wendy will acknowledge you by name.
Is anybody celebrating a birthday this month? Happy birthday, Marge. Happy birthday, Regina. Happy birthday, Estella. Happy birthday, Roy. Happy birthday, Fred. Happy birthday, Donna. Happy birthday, Marlene. Is there anybody else celebrating a birthday this month? Happy birthday, Katie. Happy birthday, everybody.
Now, with your mics muted, please join Sandy in singing Happy Birthday, everybody. Thank you, Melanie. Now, if you have a candle or chalice at home and would like to light it now, please do so. Please join in reading our chalice lighting words today, titled The Light of Truth by Richard M. Fuchs. May the light of truth illumine our minds. May the spark of love set our hearts on fire. May the flame of freedom burn brightly within us, now and always.
Our opening words today are titled Connected in Mystery and Miracle by Ellen Rocket. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and in miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
Thank you, Judith. With your mics muted, please join Sandy in singing our opening hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken, accompanied by Melanie. Thank you, Melanie. Now Judith will share a story for all ages.
Thank you, Sandy and Melanie. Our story today is No David, written and illustrated by David Shannon. La mamá de David siempre decía, No, David. David's mom always said, No, David. No, David. No, David, no. No, no, no. David, ven aquí inmediatamente. Come back here, David. David, para allá. David, be quiet. No juegues con la comida. Don't play with your food. Basta ya, David. That's enough, David. Vete a tu cuarto. Go to your room. Aterriza de una vez. Settle down. Deja de hacer eso ahora mismo. Stop at this instant. Recoge tus juguetes. Pick up your toys. Dentro de casa, no, David. Not in the house, David. Te lo advertí, David. I warned you. David, ven aquí. Come here, David. Sí, David. Te quiero. Yes, David, I love you.
Let's share now in an interlude an excerpt from Afternoon of a Faun by Claude Debussy, played for us today by Melanie Wilson. Thank you, Melanie. That was gorgeous. Our reading today is titled On Laws by Khalil Gibran. Then a lawyer said, "But what of our laws, master?" And he answered, "You delight in laying down laws, yet you delight more in breaking them. Like children playing by the ocean who build sand towers with constancy and then destroy them with laughter. But while you build your sand towers, the ocean brings more sand to the shore. And when you destroy them, the ocean laughs with you. Verily the ocean laughs, always with the innocent." But what of those to whom life is not an ocean, and man-made laws are not sand towers, but to whom life is a rock, and the law a chisel with which they would carve in it their own likeness? What of the cripple who hates dancers? What of the ox who loves his yoke and deems the elk and deer of the forest stray and vagrant things? What of the old serpent who cannot shed his skin and calls all others naked and shameless? And of him who comes early to the wedding feast, and, when overfed and tired, goes his way, saying that all feasts are violation, and all feasters lawbreakers? What shall I say of these, save that they too stand in the sunlight, but with their backs to the sun? They see only their shadows, and their shadows are their laws. And what is the sun to them but a caster of shadows? And what is it to acknowledge the laws but to stoop down and trace their shadows upon the earth? But you who walk facing the sun, what images drawn on the earth can hold you? You who travel with the wind, what weather vane shall direct your course? What man's law shall bind you if you break your yoke, but upon no man's prison door? What law shall you fear if you dance, but stumble against no man's iron chain? And who is he that shall bring you to judgment if you tear off your garment, yet leave it in no man's path? People of Orphalese, you can muffle the drum, and you can loosen the strings of the lyre, but who shall command the skylark not to sing?
Thank you, Connie. When I was a kid, I always thought I would be a novelist. When I was really little, I would write stories and then read them out loud for my family's enjoyment and edification. One of my early masterpieces was entitled George the Yellow Gorilla, which was, of course, about a gorilla named George. I wasn't particularly subtle. George had the misfortune to be a natural blonde rather than the standard gorilla brunette. As I recall, the problem was not simply that this was different, but that there were negative connotations to being yellow. Poor George tried many remedies to correct this problem, but he finally learned to embrace his yellowness and be happy. When I was in my teens, I wrote slightly more sophisticated pieces that I sent to magazines hoping to be published. But alas, the New Yorker and the Saturday Evening Post did not think that their readers would be interested in a fictionalized account of my family's summer vacation, fascinating though it was. Eventually, I gave up writing fiction. I wrote some philosophical articles for the sake of getting tenure, but honestly, that was always just a chore. I tried keeping a journal from time to time, but never could stick with it. Still, the idea of writing a novel stayed with me. I worked on it some. I had a plot and some characters, but strictly in my head. I was always too busy to actually write it down. Finally, last winter, we went to South Carolina for a couple of months, and I had no woodworking tools to keep me out of trouble. So I wrote every day for a couple of hours. The novel still isn't done, but it's getting there. The story is a modern-day version of Noah's Ark, set in 1963. I know that 1963 might not seem like modern day to some of you, but I'm still at the point where if it happened within my lifetime, it's modern. I was interested in parts of the Noah story that the Bible doesn't tell. For example, how Noah managed to keep the carnivores from killing the herbivores, how he kept the ants from eating everyone else's lunch, how he kept the kids from squabbling, how he kept the extroverts from talking the introverts to death, and most importantly of all, how he always managed to have enough toilet paper on hand. Who knew in February how relevant this was going to turn out to be? Anyway, in my version of the story, it turns out that the lions are lesbians, a gay pride, you see. And the jackals, shocked and threatened, remember this is 1963, demand that they be thrown overboard. Noah is not entirely convinced that this is necessary. He's a philosophical kind of a guy and inclined to be tolerant, but hoping to avoid violence, he eventually evicts the lions. Noah's children are upset. I'm going to read you a bit, though his wife is trying to explain things to the children. My mother toweled her hair with one hand while she considered us. It's a tough old world out there, kids, she said. Things don't always work out the way you think they should. He shouldn't have made them leave, I said. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't, Mom, said Mac. Mr. Jekyll is a big fat jerk. I don't even know what he was talking about. I know, she sighed. I don't know how to explain this to you, sweeties. He rubbed her hair some more while we waited. At least Mac was not still crying, but he was shivering. I could feel him shaking next to me. I felt like someone had punched me hard in the stomach. Listen, she said, there are rules that are not written down anywhere, but people know what they are. Like, you shouldn't pick your nose in church, right? You shouldn't leave the house without your pants on. You know those rules. We nodded. When somebody breaks those rules, other people don't like it. They might not want to be around you. We nodded again. Like Barry Johnson, who was always getting in front of you and rubbing his crotch and laughing like a maniac. There will be more rules as you get older, ones you don't know yet. They don't always make sense, you understand. The rules don't always make sense. But there they are, and if people break them, other people don't like it. And Leona and Catherine broke a rule, I asked. Yes, she said. Two women are not supposed to love each other, are not supposed to live together like men and women do. Why not? Asked Mac. I don't get it, I said. He said, I told you, the rules don't necessarily make sense, but they're still the rules. And so that's why Dad made them leave? That's why Dad made them leave. Even if it doesn't make sense? He sighed again. Dad thinks rules are important. I know this is hard to understand, but he thinks rules hold us together. He paused, gathering her analogy. It's like when you play Monopoly. You have to have rules, right? It doesn't matter so much what rules you have. They don't have to be the ones on the box. But if you don't have some rules that everyone is following, then you don't even have a game. You just have a mess. But Mom, said Mac, what if the rules are stupid? Too bad, said my mother. The rules are the rules. You could try to get people to agree that they're bad rules and change them, but you can't decide all by yourself that you aren't going to follow the rules that you don't like. Because if everyone did that, you wouldn't have a game. What if we'd rather not play at all than play a stupid game, I asked. Sadly, she said, you don't get a lot of choice about whether or not to play. If you don't play, you can't come to the party. You can't belong to the club. You're completely on your own. We shook our heads, too tired now to follow this analogy any further. Come on, babies, she urged. Time to lie down. Polly, are you going to sleep here with your brother? Okay, then let's get your sleeping bag over here and everybody settle down. He pulled a big chair over next to our couch and curled up in it. He was humming softly as I fell asleep. So disasters follow, and it's years before Noah's children entirely forgive him. But you'll have to read the book. Or maybe you'll want to wait for the movie version. I'll let you know when it's available. Anyway, I want to talk about rules. My Noah is unhappy about enforcing a particular social rule. He likes the lions. He doesn't really care if they're gay, and he thinks the jackals are rude blowhards. But he believes that his little community won't survive without some rules to regulate their behavior. Given that he wants them to be mindful of rules, it doesn't seem to be the best time to challenge a rule that some of the others see as fundamental. So he compromises, throwing the lions overboard for the sake of peace and survival. The original Noah from Genesis is following an even crazier set of rules. You might not know this. The version of Noah's Ark that I learned when I was a kid has him bringing 2 of every kind of animal on board. There's a kind of reproductive logic to this, and it has the added advantage of being very simple. But a little bit further along in Genesis, God actually tells Noah to bring 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal on board and only 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal. So which animals are clean and which are unclean? Well, that becomes very complicated. Mammals are clean only if they have cloven hooves and are strictly herbivorous ruminants, except maybe for giraffes, which might be unclean. Water-bound creatures are clean only if they have both fins and scales. Crawling creatures and flying mammals are unclean. Frogs are unclean. Eagles and herons are unclean. Robins and blue jays are clean. Snails and tortoises, weasels and kangaroos, unclean. Insects are generally unclean, except maybe for locusts. Although you've got to think it wasn't a good idea to bring 7 pairs of breeding locusts on board the ark. One can imagine Noah attempting to apply this crazy set of rules in the pouring rain, while the animals queue up and his neighbors and sons look on in confused disbelief. 1 pair of camels only, please. 7 pairs of dik-diks. Only 1 pair of elephants, thank God. 7 pairs of zebras. 7 pairs of gnu's. There seemed to be no room for compromise here. One doesn't compromise with God. No wonder Noah took to drink. Sometimes rules cry out to be broken. Unitarian Universalists are pretty good rule breakers. Our denomination has a history of civil disobedience for the sake of promoting civil rights. Of course, this sometimes involved law breaking. We helped draft evaders during the Vietnam War. Some UU churches have provided sanctuaries for undocumented immigrants. We have a proud tradition of protesting unjust laws, breaking the rules. We also have a less praiseworthy tradition of ignoring rules that we don't like. For example, some of us want to bring our coffee into the sanctuary on Sunday mornings. Damn it, we don't care if there's a rule against it. Remember the good old days when we had a sanctuary on Sunday mornings? We have to be coaxed to observe Robert's rules during congregational meetings. Sandy is brought close to despair on a regular basis because people don't follow the rules about turning off lights and closing windows and locking doors. And Vicky tears her hair out at the auction every year because we can't follow rules about how to pay for the items we've bought at the end of the evening. On the other hand, in spite of our rule-breaking tendencies, we generally manage to put on our pants before we leave the house. And we refrain from picking our nose in church. We drive on the right side of the road, we wear our masks in public, and we pay our taxes on time. We're selective rule breakers. So how do we decide which rules to follow and which rules to ignore? I think our 7 principles actually provide a pretty good guide. We don't follow rules simply because they are the rules. A rule that has no better reason for its existence than that doesn't deserve to be followed. We follow rules that promote the worth and dignity of every person, rules that promote justice, equity, and compassion, rules that promote world community, rules that protect the interdependent web of life. We're prepared to break rules that undermine these values. And we use our own judgment in accordance with our conscience to determine which rules are likely to promote our values and which are not. I'm not saying that any of these is easy. It's not. It's much easier to be a rule follower than a responsible rule breaker. But no one ever became a UU because they thought it would be easy. So here's your thought to take with you for the rest of the week from Khalil Gibran. While you build your sand towers, the ocean brings more sand to the shore. And when you destroy them, the ocean laughs with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith, and you'll have to let us know when the book is available. We affirm the work of this fellowship and its mission through our financial contributions. We continue to rely on you paying your pledges and providing what you would otherwise drop in the collection plates. While our in-person activities may be suspended, our staff continue working hard to provide the services we need. They and the bills still need to be paid. Please give as generously as you can, and may what you give bring you joy. Please take this time to write a check if you wish, and mail it to the fellowship at 6220 Jefferson Avenue, Midland, Michigan 48640. To donate online, please stay after the service for instructions. Another option is to set up bank autopay, which can be arranged by asking our treasurer, Vicky, for the UUFOM checking account number, and then having your bank set up a regular payment from your account. Thank you for your generosity. Let's share now in an offertory interlude a second excerpt from Afternoon of a Faun by Claude Debussy, played for us today by Melanie. Please join Sandy Hay in singing our closing hymn, number 1020, Boyaya, arranged by Jean Gagnon.
We are going, heaven knows where we're going, but we know within, and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hardly known, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya.
Thank you, Sandy and Melanie. Our closing words today are 3 Things to Remember by Mary Oliver. As long as you're dancing, you can break the rules. Sometimes breaking the rules is just extending the rules. Sometimes there are no rules.
Thank you to everyone who helped make this service possible today, and thank you all for joining us today. If you can stay to chat, great. If you need to go, we understand. Whatever you may encounter in the coming week, please know that the love of this community goes with you. Until we are together again, many blessings.